Welcome to Happy Times and Places, a positive Doctor Who episode commentary podcast with me, Toby Hadoke.
Hello, I'm Darrell Maclaine. I'm a voice actor, impressionist, composer and clown-stroke daft bugger. My favourite Doctor Who story is The Chase from 1965.
Okay, welcome back everybody to episode 5 of The Chase, which promises us, rather excitingly, the death of Doctor Who. So if you'd like to see that, press play or enter or whatever it is you'd like to press in 3, 2, 1, now. Oh, my sound is down. It's a different day from when you last joined me on this chase through time and space. I felt I was flagging a bit last episode, so I went to bed. I was flagging and a bit rough around the edges, but then so was the episode. So I think I'm going to allow myself that. But I've recharged my batteries, and now there are two of me. No, I'm intrigued to see this because he actually it doesn't look actually so bad from this distance. I'm accepting that. Oh, the death of Doctor Who. I mean, isn't that just the most exciting episode? Terry Nation knew what he was doing. It's very Perils of Paulini going, yeah, well, I'm going to set myself up something that looks inescapable. Doctor Who is going to, except of course the death. The Doctor Who that dies is the robot Doctor Who. Well, robots can't actually die. I know, but go with it and have fun. The fungoids, also known as the Gubbage Cones, and I think these creatures here, Jack Pitt, having played the cabin boy and a Venom Grub, now gets to do this. I think one of them's Ken Tilson as well, who had been a Sensorite. And I think in the script, in the camera script, they're referred to as Mushroom Malone, are they? And Fungoid Fred and Toadstool Taffy. I think they all have amusing names that are not canon. It's a serious programme. That was just them larking about behind the scenes, as actors and creative types do. But again, it's an attempt to, inhospitable alien environments. We don't really do that much anymore, which suggests to me we've got a little bit blasé about space travel, and for the sake of telling the story and meeting a new civilization or whatever, I don't think we get as carried away in the peculiarities of an alien environment. Things are alien, things are strange, and again, I sort of contend more so in the 60s than since, as we've sort of got used to the fact that television stories take us to other planets. We go, well, yeah, we do that. We don't need to bother about the mechanics of the other planet unless we have to wear a special hat to stop us exploding or whatever, just to play lip service to it. But it's not allowed to get in the way of the story, which has to be about more. I know there are exceptions. Don't write in. And it's very bold to do it on a TV budget in 1965. But this is already feeling more like what you expect of a Dalek story. The Daleks have... Yeah, I don't know why. I say that. I suppose because of the Dalek planet in the Daleks, and later you've got Kemble and everything, haven't you, in the Dalek master plan? Although the Dalek master plan is largely a slightly longer chase. And I think some of this, I think it was the fight certainly, was recorded earlier in the day because it's quite complicated, and because of, I think, the toll it would have taken on Hartnell. It's certainly a bold manoeuvre to go, we're going to have a fight between identical doctors and essentially do it in real time and with limited camera trickery. You've got to sort of take your hat off and go, okay, if that's what you're going to do. And again, do we say that is hugely ambitious, or do we say that is a daft misunderstanding of the resources available? I don't know. I've got a grudging admiration for a time when you'd go, well, look, and it's interesting. I interviewed Philip Hinchcliffe relatively recently, and I'd been watching him on that Lively Arts documentary where he basically said, we do these special effects and we're happy if 50% of them work. So that idea that you would embark upon something and you would go, but sometimes this won't work, but the audience will accept that because they don't need it to be 100% convincing, because they know they're watching a fiction, and they know that the program is trying to, if not depict something entirely accurately, to suggest something, and you have to do the rest of it. That is lost. That is a lost art now, that the audience do the work with you. The audience, and there's a lot of glib television programs and glib television critics that I think have encouraged us and helped us to do that, where a television critic is somebody that doesn't love the medium but scores points by coming up with a bon mot at the expense of the program makers, even if it's got actually nothing to do with what was broadcast. And I think I've said before, you don't win. You don't win. If you get the enjoyment out of the show by being a bit superior to it, well, if that's how you want to enjoy yourself, well done. But if you don't want to go with the storytelling, that's up to you. Now, that's not to say that Doctor Who always gets it right. And also, if you are somebody that watches Doctor Who to laugh at its imperfections, but you enjoy it, that is absolutely fine. I think the reason I went down Vexatious Alley via Crossroad was just, I was just reminded of the fact that the people that write about television for a living often seem to be rather disdainful of it, which I think is a bit rich. But Doctor Who fans, we enjoy it all in different ways, don't we? Some people will. Gavin Rymel, who I think I've mentioned, he enjoys getting to the nitty gritty of the different Dalek designs. Other people like making their own costumes and dressing up. I find it amusing that some quarters of Doctor Who fandom will have a go at. In fact, I think Kieran Hyman, who's a fan I met once at a convention, but I've seen him online. I think when I met him, he was dressed as Ian from The Chase, and I have got no desire to make a costume, to ape a costume, to discover whose costume was made out of what. But if somebody else does, and they have a great time doing it, and that's an expression of their creativity, I think that is great, and I think that is a wonderful thing that Doctor Who has done. And there is no, some corners I think of people, certainly of the internet inhabited by people of my age, are rather dismissive at best of cosplay, which is a thing I totally do not get or want to do. But but I don't. I certainly don't think that I'm any better because I can identify a character actor at 30 paces or whatever else it is that that I get carried away by with and the sort of minutiae that vex me about Doctor Who. It's all fine. It's all good. Curious, these sets, aren't they? But that's an inventive shot because it's shooting through some sort of gossamer. That's really weird. And the way that that's been lit, it is that whatever's drawn on, whatever's painted on it, has a sort of slightly abstract quality. There's a nice high camera. Oh, I'm so sorry. I've gone back to shooting this in the normal fashion. We only had the high camera once to make up for my rather tired performance. I wonder if you put Gubbage Cone on your CV or fungoid. I suppose what is fungoid what the plant is called, and Gubbage Cone is its Latin name, Gubbagicus conicus. Oh, and it sort of deflates. But they're not unlike the Varga plant, which is another piece of sort of lethal vegetation played by actors that appear in a future piece of Terry Nation. He liked his hostile environments. He liked his. I'm looking at the episode titles, lining this up. What Journey into Terror and The Death of Time. I mean, some of them just sort of mean nothing, do they? There's the famous Waking Ally in Dalek Invasion of Earth, but a lot of the title, a lot of the titles in the Hartnell era are quite strange. There's story ones like The Rescue and The Escape, but I like it when they get a bit sort of destruction of time. The destruction of time. That at least that has a time destructor. Oh yeah, William Hartnell's playing the robot. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'd forgotten about this because I associate the robot with being Edmund Warwick, but and this is pretty much done in real time, isn't it? And he's in fact walking. And so now we have Edmund Warwick as your actual Doctor, dubbed on by Hartnell, and I'm loving these layers of, as I say, what is it, gossamer, sort of slightly see-through, slightly translucent set dressing or whatever. That's really quite clever. Slightly more effective than these drawn on. Although I actually quite like those because you can't tell if they're drawn on, if they're ridged or whatever. And now Hartnell, because we had the camera on Ian and Vicky, Hartnell swapped places with Edmund Warwick. It's almost like a tag team sort of thing. I think this is quite inventive and ingenious. And there's nothing, we've not had anything quite like this where, for our heroes, the Doctor, they're not sure if the Doctor is some sort of evil imposter, and he, by this point he's the main guy. I know early on in the series he was he was a character we weren't sure about, but this is quite disturbing. Yeah, the Daleks did make the death of Doctor Who. I like these titles, but they may as well be called the bad thing is going to happen, or but it's just I sometimes like the vagueness where Terry Nate's going, I'm not even going to call it Empire State Building of Doom. I'll just call it bad thing will happen, or awful potentialities. Right. That's when Edmund Warwick actually speaks. That is they obviously decided that they could get away with one syllable. Oh yes, and he's attacking her with the cane. That's pretty grim. That, but I think in some of those shots, Edmund Warwick does not look too dissimilar to Hartnell. I was expecting much worse. I have to say, because I'm going into this very much in a positive frame of mind, I think my brain has sort of prepared me for the worst with some things, so they are consequently slightly better than I might think. So I might be being kinder, but I'm not being disingenuous. I think because I've prepared myself for the fall, the landing is slightly safer. Which one's the Doctor? And this is this is quite a call for Hartnell, and this is clever with the angles, and I think this is pretty ingenious stuff for a television studio without recourse to special effects or post-production and all of that sort of thing. I think this is pretty smart. Okay, that's not William Hartnell. And he's a bit like a 10th Planet Cyberman in the fact that he's not really making much attempt for the mouth movements to match what he's actually saying, but because he shouldn't be shot all that much. And we don't. Yeah, this is not a bad face-off. Although, yeah, I mean, studio fights are pretty clumsy at this time, and you know, there have been better fights than that in the history of Doctor Who, but there have also been worse. The Time Meddler. I've got a feeling I've looked at the camera and said the Time Meddler before when referring to a bad fight in Doctor Who, and I bet I wonder if I do it for this broadcast when I get to do the Time Meddler. I go, actually, this fight is rather good. It's suggestive of ancient Viking battles. Let's see, Dalek getting eaten by a Gubbage Cone. But what about the Dalek that's inside the Gubbage? Oh no, he's survived. And I'm sure I read there are some. I remember Doctor Who magazine saying that a BBC camera appears in the jungles of Mechanus, and I remember I had to look really hard for it. I probably won't spot it this time round. There is a BBC camera in the jungles of Mechanus, but I can't remember off the top of my head entirely when it is. But you can spend whole days searching for it if you so desire. And that can be quite fun if that's what you want to do. But Doctor Who's not unusual in that. If you watch quite a lot of old telly, you see things poking in to the corners. Oh, Ian is so sort of casually brave, isn't he? And the dynamic that they have, and the dynamic that the Doctor has with Barbara. I do hope they got married. I'm sure I asked William Russell at a commentary once, and I think I was expecting him to go. When I said, "Oh, did Ian and Barbara get married?" And I think, well, I don't know. I'm sure he shot me down. I can't remember. But I seem to recall getting shot down by William Russell quite kindly. But just I throw in something that I thought he'd just go with, and he didn't. But that might be just me being paranoid, because you're in a sense of high alert when you meet your heroes and are then doing a thing with them. And yeah. Anyway, he's a very charming and engaging fellow, and he's a lovely actor. And I was showing my partner something that his son Alfred Enoch was in, who's carrying on the tradition and being, and you can actually see, you can see that he's his son. There is a similarity in the look, and he's done some stuff in the States, and he's done some great stage and TV work here. What was that? Spying on the sleeping bodies of our heroes. What's this one called? Oh, The Death of Doctor Who. And the next one's called The Planet of Decision, which is again a really odd. I like those ones where they're a really, where you sort of go, I don't really know what that means, and you wouldn't sort of use that sequence of words today, I think. I mean, we know what the planet is, we know what decision means, and yes, I suppose a decision is made on the planet, but it's oh, look at that. That is a glorious model of the mechanoid city on stilts. That's a wonderful looking thing. Ray Cusick and John Wood are the designers. And I think that is a fabulous looking thing, that mechanoid city. I remember that picture was in the early years book. That's where you got to get to, and this is where. And of course, when you first read about this story, this was the story that had the mechanoids in it, and it's only when you watch it that you go, they don't have them in it that much. Did I just spot? Okay, so they're the film Daleks, I think, in the background, the ones with slightly different coloured domes, and they've had their big bumpers removed. This is rather funky lounge music to herald the danger. It's almost like we've just walked into a funky bar. Yeah, that's rather a joyous musical choice. And the Doctor, of course, has gone to do the sheer suicide thing that Barbara's just been talking about. Which perhaps would have been a more dramatic moment had it not been a bing bang boo. I'm Doctor Who, and I'm not a dead Doctor Who, but I'm gonna boop boop a doo with the. So yeah, there's a couple of film Daleks in the back there. Look, I think I'm right in that. Again, Gavin Rymill's website is the repository for knowledge for all. Because this is the first one with the slats on the side as well, isn't it? Which were the Daleks I grew up with, and I was quite surprised when I saw the very early ones that they didn't have the slats on the midriff. They had the sort of horizontal things going round, which you can see the ones in the background have, because it's film Dalek. Oh, and by the film Dalek is the camera. I saw the camera. Yeah, that is the camera. How exciting. I hope that's made your day, that you could see a mistake. I've definitely not noticed these sort of see-through blankets or whatever they are that sort of make up the set. I think that's... I like those a lot. Oh, the Doctor's pretending to be the robot. Oh. Oh, gosh, he seems quite shaken by that. And hearing the Doctor, the Dalek shooting off screen, there was a suggestion there that the Doctor might have bought it. That was oh, that's brilliant. I'd forgotten that the wall sort of collapsed. The drama's really heightened in the last 3 minutes or so of this episode. You got no choice. Yeah, that's great. It's sort of do we stay in the frying pan or do we jump into the fire? It's a planet of decision. Well, they've just made the decision. Surely it's not called the planet of the decision because of that decision, because they've made the decision. The planet that was decided upon, where a decision has just taken place. Robot Doctor Who. Mechanoid voice. Mechanoid is spelt wrong, isn't it? A fight arranged by Peter Diamond. Oh, okay. Yeah, Mechanoid is spelt wrong on the credits for this episode, which I sort of like. That will I will mention some other nomenclature-based hijinks, Mechanoid style, in the next episode. But I have to choose my favourite. Flight Through Eternity. Yeah, see, that doesn't mean anything. Journey into Terror. That doesn't mean anything. I've got the episode titles up. The Death of Time. They're just sort of like... He could have called it Dry Planet of the Sad Fish People, or Empire State Building of Doom, or Haunted House of Terror. But instead, it's just sort of, I'll be vague, because I'll write the title, and then I'll write the episode, and then I won't bother to go back and change the title. Yeah, I think so. Right. Oh, what have I got to choose? Well, I just think the sheer balls of going, I've got... Because I remember reading the title, The Death of Doctor Who, in a Doctor Who quiz book. I think it said, match these episode titles with their stories. And I thought, well, The Death of Doctor Who. And then when I read about the chase and read about the fact there was a robot Doctor Who, I thought, I bet that's what it is. That it's not Doctor Who, it's the robot Doctor Who. Again, if you're a kid and you work that out, you feel really, really clever, because they're basically saying, you're going to watch an episode now that Doctor Who dies. And at some point in that episode, the kids watching will go, oh, no, I know, they mean the robot. Phew, Doctor Who's not going to die. And I think that's writing very well. That's writing very cleverly for your audience. And it also leads to the production team having to be very, very inventive, not always succeeding. But some of the ways that they depicted the robot and some of the hard work that William Hartnell put in and some of the clever use of the cameras, led to some great invention and some great sleights of hand and sleights of performance in order to pull off that thing that was, frankly, impossible under the circumstances in which they made television in those days, unless they'd had a film sequence that they could, I'm surprised they didn't even try to sort of go, well, let's do that bit on film. But they didn't. They did it in the studio. The mad bastards. That's what I like about it. And that's, it probably would disappointed and embarrassed me 20 years ago. And I'm not a worse person for actually going, I think that's great and really entertaining. My life is better now that I think that is fine. As I edge ever closer towards death, I'm more accepting of slightly slipshod television. And if there's not a lesson in that, I don't know. Oh dear. Right. So what does Darrell like? He's an enthusiastic fellow, isn't he? I've never met him. And he's put real effort into this, and I'm very grateful.
Reason number 5. I'm going to be on the other hand next. Hope there's not too many of these. I don't want to take my socks off. Reason number 5 is the mechanoids. Now, a lot of the 60s monsters, as much as we love them, are quite ugly. Generally lumps with eyes on stalks, or, fiberglass with eyes. But the mechanoids are beautiful. They are basically just a geodesic sphere. I don't have one with me, so that you're going to imagine a mechanoid. Sorry, I don't know what this is. Like a turtle. But the mechanoids are beautiful, and they're amazing, and they never got used again, and they should be brought back. They could still be brought back. If they can bring back the macra, they can bring back the mechanoids. Do something interesting with them. Have them open up. What's inside? Bring back the mechanoids. They are gorgeous. So, reason number...
we'll have to have reason number 6 at the next episode. And I'm slightly irritated by that, because I nearly chose the mechanoid, because that's a great entrance, especially with the door collapses or whatever it did there. That was a really tense last few minutes of that episode. That was very well done. Funky lounge music aside. Ba-doo, ba-doo, ba-doo. It wasn't that. That's the opening music, but it was still, yeah. The mechanoid I liked, but I sort of had in the back of my head to go, well, I'll choose the mechanoids next week, because that's the mechanoid episode. And I can't do that now, because Darrell has chosen the mechanoids. So I'm going to have to choose something else. So I thought I'd made my choice, but it does mean that next week I'm going to have to, well, I'm going to be on a planet of decision. Well, how appropriate. See you there, if you decide to join me.
I think you'll find. I think you'll find. I think you'll find. I think you'll find.
This is another one of those episodes that was recorded before it was pointed out to me quite correctly that the Gavin Rymill Dalek website I eulogise, and rightly so, dalek6388.co.uk, is actually a joint work by Gavin and John Green. So I'm happy to correct this oversight, which I don't think will be repeated in future episodes, thank goodness. Sorry, John. He's been lovely about it, but sorry. Thank you so much for listening to Happy Times and Places, which is presented by me, Toby Hadoke. My special guest this time around was Darrell Maclaine, who can be found at MacLockdown on Twitter, MAC Lockdown. I'd like to extend my thanks to my featured patrons this episode, who are Ruben Herfindahl, Pete Dillon Trenchard, Paul Dykes, Andrew East, David Gillespie, Charles Gears, Lisa Gledhill, Paul J. Guest, Steve Hatcher, Duncan Harvey, Simon Hodges, Sam Hollingsworth, Matthew Hooliston, Darren Howard, Gregory Hudson, Robert Jewell, Christopher Joyce, and Judith Jackson. The music for this podcast is specially composed by Dave Gates, and the podcast artwork is by Dylan Patterson. Now listen up, everybody. Patrons get advance releases and exclusive material, and you can join their number at patreon.com/Toby Hadoke, or you can do a one-off contribution at kofi.com/Toby Hadoke. They help to keep these podcasts going at a time when performers like myself have no income stream whatsoever. But if you can't do that, and that's completely understandable, and you're still very, very welcome, perhaps you could go onto your podcast outlet and give a 5-star rating or lovely review, or both. You can find out more information at www.tobyhadoke.com, and please check out my weekly comedy show on twitch.tv/XS Malarkey. That's an X and an S and the word Malarkey. It's a comedy club I've been running for 24 years, and I have special guests from around the comedy circuit every week. It's a bit swearier and less Doctor Who-y than here, but it's still fun nonetheless.